Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Kera Dangerous Talk. Look, I'm hyped up today. It's Sunday. I don't have Ron Hurt the second here. Oh, he's gonna kill me. But I do have Dr. Afiya. Dr. Afiya, how are you doing today?
I am well. How about you?
I am, you know what? I got up this morning, I had my coffee, I was looking at my notes for this show. I'm ready to go. Um, I like you a lot because you're a smiling therapist. You always got a big, wonderful, beautiful smile on your face, a nice hairstyle, and you just give off such positive energy, and I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. I definitely just had wash day, so my
Yes.
hair is wet.
Now, I haven't spoken to you in this kind of way since I believe the first season of my show. Um, I don't really know what season I'm in because I lost count, but I think it's like the third season. But my point is that it's been a minute, and we had such a great conversation. I wanted you back immediately, but life happens and all sorts of things happen. But you were a fan favorite because you gave us so much information, and we had such great dialogue and rapport with each other. And I do remember Dr. Field. Well, no, before I get into that, tell people what you do because you're a psychologist and all that stuff. But I want you to tell folks what you do before we get into the meat of it.
Excellent. So my name is Dr. Afiya Mblishaka. I'm a clinical psychologist and a hairstylist. And so I've developed something called psychotherapy, where I use hair as an entry point into mental health services. So I train hairstylists, barbers, how to do mental health first aid. I have a private practice where I see clients for therapy, for individual and group therapy. So that's me.
Mm. Yes, I love all that you do. And somebody said they like in my hair, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I should have started. I should have led with that. Looking real healthy too.
Well, I appreciate it. About time. My sister put this little thing together. Look, so I want to start here because last time we talked, we were in the midst of COVID, right? Like mental health, you said business was booming for you.
It still is. It still
People
is.
were coming in. But before we tackle that issue, I want to say right now, my nickname is Kara Dangerous, but I can't lie, Dr. Via. Like, I lost my cat of 14 years to cancer a couple of weeks ago.
Oh,
And, he had been with me for 14 years, and I had lived up north in the coldest temperatures, right? For a person that came from the south. Dealing with blizzards and these snowstorms and just cold weather. But my cat and me, we hung together. That was my buddy. That was my pal. And as tough as I like to appear, I can't lie, Dr. Afia. Once I know that I love fall now, but once I see it starting to get cold and that sun, I'm not seeing it as much. I get a little nervous. Like I'm like, okay, is
mm,
this winter gonna bring me depression? Is
mm.
I just not full depression, but I just feel a little different. Like it, you know what I mean? Especially up north, it just seemed like the sun didn't shine as much. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, what advice do you have for people when these winter blues, as I call it, start coming around?
Mm. Well, I'm so sorry to hear about this loss. 14 years is such a major relationship. I really
Yes.
want to acknowledge that. And there is a
Shout
oh,
out to my little kitty Blackjack. Oh, isn't that cute?
gotta take a moment of silence.
A
Yeah.
moment of silence.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about what grief and loss already does to someone, but the complications of the weather. There's something called seasonal affective disorder, also known as SAD, that
Mhm.
literally translates that when it starts getting into the fall and into the winter months, that people of color, especially Black people, get much more in their feelings and in their mood in the cold weather.
Mhm.
There's a huge relationship between our mood and the sunlight, right? And
Mhm.
that this sort of perks us up, activates our minds. Okay, you got me out there in the
I mean,
boat.
this is a wintertime photo and you're still smiling. So I said, you know what, this is what I need to do. Maybe I should be more active in the
Yeah,
winter.
yeah, sweater. I can't even sweater weather. You gotta get those scarves. Okay, you do your search, your research.
Yes.
But yeah, there's a lot of things to do. I had done some posts around it because it's such a common concern about making sure you get vitamin D. like as a supplement, because that can have an impact when there's minimal sunlight, to make sure that you're warm, because there's something about like your bones and blood and
Mhm.
stuff being warm that keeps you emotionally warm. There
Mhm.
could be other factors like getting a sun lamp. So that's actually a prescription. You can get a prescription from a doctor that you get this very special lamp
A
that you
sun
put
lamp?
in.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
I heard of
And so
salt lamps, but never a sun lamp.
yeah, it's supposed to like mimic what the extra sunlight is, because in the mornings, especially, we tend to feel more sluggish and depressed. So since it's still dark outside,
Mhm.
with the daylight savings and all that stuff, that you actually can shine this lamp on you for hours a day to sort of activate the feel good hormones, and I guess maybe like the neurochemicals in the brain, to be able to perk us up to be in a better mood. So
Well,
there
let me
are
ask
things to be done.
well, let me ask you this, because that's a thing, but I'm always about speaking into existence, right? And so if I want to speak to myself, Dr. Fia, as soon as I see this change in the weather and the change of um how it's looking outside, I equate it to being gloomy. Okay,
Mhm.
what can I start telling myself? What can I start speaking into myself to kind of keep myself in the right mind frame once I see that this change in the weather is starting to happen?
Mm. Well, I like to lean into what our ancestors would talk about. I love African proverbs.
Mm-hmm.
There are can be thousands of years old, this wisdom that's passed down from generation to generation. And I think there's a proverb that goes, no matter how long the night, the sun will always come, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That speaks to that there will be darkness, but that is an opportunity to some degree to plant seeds for what you would like to birth or rebirth in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, our Kemetic or ancient Egyptian ancestors really honored the winter through something called the winter solstice, right? So the winter
Mm-hmm.
solstice is the darkest day of the entire year. Like there's the least amount of sunlight, but that's when they would do the most like rituals in terms of gathering together, planting things, having conversations, like cleanses. So
Mm-hmm.
sort of releasing those things in the dark, or planting things that you want to manifest. And so I lean into our ancestors in that way.
Well, thank you. I'm going to continue to speak myself up and stay as optimistic as possible through these winter times. Now, like when we first got on here, I said, we talked in the beginning, our first time doing COVID. Now, I don't know what with the end parts of COVID is still going on, right? It seems like it's just going to be a normal occurrence for us, right?
Mhm.
But Dr. Fiat, we've been talking about this on this show, inflation. For the first time in my life, after I've always worked in corporate America, but I took a little job and I'm doing retail for the first time in my life. And what
Mm.
I have to tell you, Dr. Fiat, is people are broke. Okay, people are BROKE. They're broke. Okay, and when you're broke, sometimes you get angry, Dr. Afia. And
Mm.
what I'm seeing is that, I don't know if it's people going to need anger management, but I mean, I'm seeing people steal out of stores every single day. And
Mm.
they look like able bodied people. I don't know. But what do you feel about this kind of situation we're in now and how it will kind of affect mental health? Just give me anything about what I just said about money, people dealing with anger, because when it's a lack of resources, the stressors of that, like right now in America, we got some places that are running out of water. Some places have dirty
Mm.
water and they can't
Yeah.
access the water. Just watching on the news this morning, some people don't even have water to be able to flush their toilet. So
Mm.
this is high stress.
Mm. Yeah. And upsetting. I'm thinking about two psychologists related to restricting resources. There's someone named Skinner
Mhm.
and Amos Wilson.
Mhm.
Skinner, you maybe have heard of him, that he would have these boxes that he would put pigeons into and make them do different behaviors, or would put rats in these different mazes to make them do different things. But the way that he would get them to do these behaviors is that he would starve them. He would
Mm.
starve them and give them food as a reinforcement to basically shape their behavior and get them to do what he wanted them to do. Now, there's a famous Black psychologist named Dr. Amos Wilson. And so he said that we don't need to identify with Skinner in the situation. We need to identify with the rats and the birds. Because to what degree is our behavior being shaped by restricting resources? And that when food or money comes up, how can that control our behaviors? The thing is, when you restrict resources so much, it's going to create violence, right? That this becomes
Mhm.
life or death. And so there we have a survival instinct. Most of us do.
Mhm.
If it hasn't been taken out of us, that we want to survive. And so you're probably willing to do anything, whether
Yes.
it's steal, fight, whatever, to get that those resources that you need to live. But to think about, we're not in charge of the water. We're not in charge of the electricity. We're not in charge of the inflation rates. We're not in charge of these different things. And so to recognize, well, who is in charge of this and how do we direct or redirect the anger towards them versus each other?
I love everything you just said there. I'm gonna tell you, they stealing, doctor. They out here stealing for real. I want to go to an audience question. It says, "Can you explain if you think COVID-19 actually contributed to the increase in disorder, and if so, how?"
Mm, yes, I think that we don't heal in isolation, right?
Mhm.
That actually one of the symptoms, for example, of depression is isolation. And so
Uh-huh.
that we've been forced into this condition of being alone or not getting the support or just this ongoing stress and fear, that I definitely think it has impacted our emotion regulation. Our emotions are ways that we communicate with other people, but if there are restrictions because we're not in person or restrictions because of time and having to overwork, then it underdevelops us and limits the way that we actually restore ourselves and feel better. So I
Mhm.
definitely think COVID has hugely impacted mental health.
Well, let me bring this to a personal perspective for me. I spent time in New York after I left Connecticut. Over 11 years, I was in Connecticut, and I went to New York. When I went to New York, just 1 or 2 months in, COVID just hit us, and it hit
Mm,
New York like really bad. And I'm such a person who loves spending time with myself. I've had neighbors who have asked me, am I a hermit, or or whatever, but I really and truly enjoy spending time by myself. But because I have people like you in my life, and I do know that a lot of isolation isn't good. But my mom was saying, like, Kara, just stick in there. But when you're in New York, the people, they're cool. But I felt like at the time there are already people in New York, they're not trusting, and then you
mm,
compile COVID on top of that, and it's like nobody wants to talk, nobody wants to be your friend. So
mm.
I was just really there isolated. So I guess I'm just trying to ask you, I guess from hearing what you just said, it was good for me to remove myself out of that situation, coming there and not having any friends, and being in that situation where it's kind of hard to meet friends at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you're talking about something important. The number one relationship that you'll ever have in your entire life is with yourself, right? In
Mhm.
terms of recognizing and studying yourself and being able to make a distinction between yourself and your environment. I'm kind of similar to you in the sense that I recharge from isolation, like
Mhm.
the quiet time, alone time, time to reflect and kind of remove toxicity, right?
Right, right.
In terms of if the relationship isn't a high quality, then actually getting away from it is the healthier option. So I'm just thinking about how if we're too absorbed in our relationships, it can have consequences as well.
Well, as we take a little second here, I want to tell everybody that's joining us on any social media platform, thank you, hello, and welcome. And make sure you go ahead and hit that like button and make a comment as well. If you have a question for Dr. Afiya, feel free to put it in the live chat. And thank you guys so very much. Dr. Afiya, but it's always in the back of my mind, like, at what point is the crossover? Because, like you said, we like spending time alone. Even I know you're not a sex therapist, but even when it comes to sex, like sex and being alone, like I could be alone, okay. But at what point should you say, okay, I'm starting to cross over to being a little not crazy, but like I'm getting a little weird. I need to like go out and have a drink with some friends. Because I feel like sometimes we have to tell ourselves, okay, look, get out a little bit.
Yes, yes. Okay, I like to think about the 4Ds
Mm-hmm.
as a way to remember what can transition from a like normal healthy behavior to one that can become a disorder.
Mm-hmm.
So the 4Ds, deviance, distress, dysfunction, and danger. Deviance, distress, dysfunction, and danger. So deviance basically is this what the average person is doing? So let's say that, during COVID, all of us have been washing our hands a lot, right? And monkeypox and all of that, like hand washing's
Yes.
in. But in terms of understanding deviance, there's going to be people who, let's say the average person washes their hands like 8 times a day. Let's just throw that number,
Okay.
using the bathroom, cooking, maybe coming in outside of their house. But there's going to be people who wash their hands 80 times a day,
Mm-hmm.
and there might be people who wash their hands 8 times a year, right? So getting into that extreme that exists, right?
Oh my, yeah, Lamar Odom, the basketball player, was on BET College Hill, and Ray J and Nene Leakes and all of them. They noticed he did not wash his hands, and he would immediately go to like give him a high five, and but then they realized he didn't wash his hands. And I just want to say that to people because it don't matter the status of a person, it don't matter how you think they appear. You really don't know how clean a person is until you can see their total environment. Like you just will be surprised. Just don't.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So that's deviant behavior that he was washing his hands. So deviant, just what
Yeah.
doing a behavior that's kind of outside of the norm or the average. So that could be alone time. Some people maybe are spending like the average person spends a certain amount, but to be on either extreme, always needing to be by someone all the time is actually a
Mhm.
disorder. But never wanting to see anyone ever is also a disorder, if that makes sense. Okay, deviance, distress. It's
Mhm.
distress basically means, does this behavior make you upset? Like, do you not like yourself because you do it? Do other people not like that you do this? Is it a problem for your family and friends that you're doing this thing, or is it a problem for you? So we got deviance, distress, dysfunction.
Mhm.
Dysfunction, does it interrupt your ability to work, to be in relationships, to yeah, like take care of yourself? If you never want to leave the house and you're, gaining lots of weight, is that good for you or not? And then danger. Does this behavior cause harm to yourself or someone else? And
Mhm.
so thinking about that for every thought, feeling, or behavior, those 4Ds. And that's how I kind of distinguish what's healthy versus unhealthy.
The 4 Ds.
Yeah.
What distinguish what is healthy. I had something I wanted to say, but I kind of lost it. But I'm sure it'll come back to me about the cleanliness and everything.
Yeah.
I want to get because you just never know, doctor.
No, I'm like, ooh.
You have to like you pray over food. If you dated somebody new or something, you just have to pray that they is clean. And I don't know if people think about that like they should. I'm gonna just flip and flop around here because I want to get into some hair stuff, okay? Because, like you said, you have your hair, psycho hair therapy. Is that
Psychotherapy.
psycho
You got
hair psychotherapy? I like that. So it says that you're connecting psychology to hair care.
it. Yes. Yes.
And would you like to go in further about that, Doc?
Yes, I would love to. There is a huge relationship between our hair and our mental health. To some degree, our hair is like a litmus test. It lets us know what's going on inside of our minds and our bodies. That
Mhm.
when our hair is not cared for, oftentimes we might have some challenges in caring for ourselves. But if it's like so perfect, are we putting those pressures of perfection on ourselves? So it really can show the health of the body and even the health of the mind. And I really do think people who do hair, whether it's a sister or a mom or the uncle that gives the cuts or the trained professional stylist or barber, they have a big role in our
Mhm.
community in terms of really taking care of folks that are vulnerable, right? Because if you think about somebody getting a haircut, there's like a blade to their face or their head,
Mm-hmm.
and really having that trusting relationship. And so I really lean into, again, that the work of our ancestors, that this is the way that healing took place, oftentimes for thousands and thousands of years, to use hair as a way to care for yourself and care for other people.
Well, you said ancestor, so ancestors makes me that word think about elders that we have currently. And so I saw this on your page, and I said, of course, it had to be a black woman, but I never knew this lady, and I want you to tell people who she is because you say she is the mother of black hair psychology. So just go ahead and let us know who this is, so we can get the historical part of hair.
Yes, yes. I smile and seeing her. This is Dr. Marva Lewis. She is a professor at Tulane University in New Orleans. And she has something called hair combing interaction. In the 90s, she was studying parent child relationship in Black families to see how do people get emotionally bonded. And she recognized that this oftentimes happens every single day through the hair combing process. Watching Black mothers and their children, seeing how the conversations look between them. She developed something called talk, touch, and listen. Again, it's called talk,
Mm,
touch, and listen. And so she trains parents how to strengthen the emotional connection with their children through the hair combing process. So, how to have conversations, how to not pull too hard, how to affirm and have gentle touch, how to affirm their blackness and the coils and kinks of their hair, during this daily experience, as a way to prepare them for the world and protect them against the world. So I got all excited because I love Dr. Lewis.
oh, well, I'm so glad I brought her up because people need to know that, I don't know if many people are aware of hair psychology, but something I've always heard, and I want you to tell me how true it is. And hair and energy,
Hmm.
the connection with, and especially black hair and the coils and the being a, I don't know if it's a 8 or a 6 or just being divine, but tell us about that part.
Yes, yes. Woo, okay, you're getting me even more excited now on that question. So, there's a big connection between hair and energy in the sense that hair is the highest point on our entire bodies and therefore the most connected to the divine. To some degree,
Mm,
our hair is like antenna and it can pick up on other people's energy. I know growing up, my mother always told me, and I'm assuming yours did too, don't let anybody touch your hair. And I
right.
would think about that message. There could be several reasons for that, right? That maybe she spent so much time, she didn't want anybody messing it up, but also that this is, your physical body. This, it's like somebody coming up and touching your butt or something. That's
It's
still
your
your,
crown.
yes. And to
Yes.
even think like this is even more sacred of a space in terms of the connection to your nervous system, the connection to your ancestors and your family, and all of that. So how sacred and protected it is. And oftentimes when I look and investigate different healing rituals on the African continent, it involves hair. That
Mhm.
whether someone is having a wedding, right? There's all these different hair rituals that people go through, or rites of passage, or a baby naming ceremony, or even a death. They tend to involve hair as part of that energetic transition. So,
Mhm.
yeah, hair definitely is sacred and energetic, and sometimes people need to cover it up, right, to protect it, or even then others putting different adornments to attract certain energy as well.
Now, you may not know the answer to this, but because this has always been what I've heard about hair and energy, is there a way we can pull on that energy? Like, how do we feel
Mm.
that energy in our life? Because I got a lot of hair, and
Mm.
so and they would pick on me in school and call me Mufasa back in elementary school. But that's fine. That's a lion. That's the
Yeah,
king of the
that's true.
jungle.
That is a power. Mufasa was no joke. So good.
And I do kind of like a lion, so I leaned into that.
Okay.
But anyway, how can, is there a way to access that energy to make it more
Mm.
abundant, or um instead of just knowing that it does give us energy, I'm like, how can I actually feel that?
Mm. Wow, I haven't thought about this question before. Um,
It's okay if you
hmm.
don't know it. I just
No,
thought
no.
about that when I'm with myself. Sometimes I'm like, is it just something that's, maybe it just give us strength when we don't even know it's giving us strength.
Ooh.
Maybe it's subconscious.
Yeah. No. This is good. This is good because I'm just thinking about what different styles can sort of how they can elevate it. Like I was even saying that if hair is the highest point of our bodies, how do we make it higher and bigger to pick up on certain things? Because there was even research studies that had come out saying that when Native Americans, first had contact with colonizers, that they had long flowing hair, and it helped them for their hunting.
Mm,
That it allowed, like, in terms of just different, like, picking up information. But when the colonizers then, like, cut and shaved their hair, they became much less skillful in
mm-hmm,
their hunting process because they didn't have that same connection. So you have me thinking about what some of the talismans can be to,
mm-hmm,
like, pump up, like, whether it's putting something like having on my desk like cowrie shells or things like that to um, channel. I've seen in only photos and books that when people want to go into particular spiritual trances,
mm-hmm,
that they put certain things on their head and in their hair, or even different chalks or
mm-hmm.
dust that can allow someone to travel, like, internally much more deeply. But I'm not skilled in that yet. I need to get, like, initiated into
Well,
some.
don't go too far now, doctor. You don't go too far now. You'll be calling me to help pull you back now. I'm a little spiritual. Like, stay right here with us.
Yeah. I'm not there yet. I'm not there.
Well, check this out. Because I want to give the brothers something, okay? Because, I think with hair, sometimes people just automatically think about women right off the bat. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I think. So I took this from your page as well, where we're talking about the psychology of black men in hair. And something, let me get this comment off of here. But something that I loved, one second. Something that I love that you had posted with this is the voices of black men are repeatedly muted about their personal self-care through hair grooming in academic and clinical conversations. So tell us in what way do you mean here? Just kind of go deeper and expand on that.
Yes, I completely agree with what you're saying. Oftentimes we think about hair care as being something that's feminine and only women do. But I basically argue that men think and do their hair more than women in terms
Mm.
of shaving their faces or going to the barbershop. I know that my husband goes to the barbershop way more than I get my hair done because he's there like every week, every other week. Um,
Right.
versus I can't remember the last time I got, no, I think I got my hair done in June.
And
But
those men let you know when they got their hair done too, cause they think they be fine, don't they? They think they look good, don't they? They be
they do. They do look good. And so just to even think that, the barbershop is a black man's country club, right? This is the way that they have their own, like, set up conversations, actually engage in physical touch, like affirming, make jokes, entrepreneurship, selling things, like it's its own news channel, right? In terms of the
Mhm.
information that's spread in that space. And so I think that we don't always include them talking about how they take care of themselves through hair. Like, again, even self-care is sometimes seen as feminine. If a woman's talking about, oh, I'm going to go get my nails done, but we don't equate it with a black man then going to get his beard trimmed, right? That it
Mhm.
can have just as much of a transformation, but we don't ask them about it. We're not asking, what does it feel like to go through that experience? Do you feel better after? Is that a way that you cope and deal with stress in
Mm.
life? Is this a way that you can get away from some of the, maybe, like, work or family stressors, that this is a private time?
Cause they also kiki in that barbershop and keep up, like they say women just do it, but they gossip in there too, talk about the
they,
sports. So
they do. They absolutely do.
I want to bring up a stat that you had. It says that 37%, as of 2020, about 37% of black men reported that going to the barbershop connected them more deeply to their father. And I think that's beautiful because so many times we hear about the connection of especially black girls and sitting between their mother's legs and just that comfortability with just feeling loved. I mean, pain too if you're tender headed, but it just a good memory for you at the end of the day. So
Mm.
that was just beautiful though to know that.
Yeah. I did a research study
Mhm.
that was Washington D.C. based, but anyone could take it virtually. Where I had a group of my research lab students go to about like 90 hair salons and barbershops in the Washington D.C. metropolitan area, and people could tell stories about their hair experiences.
Mhm.
And in there, yeah, basically over a third of the black men said that they recall these early memories of going to the barbershop with their fathers and how that made them feel bonded and connected, that
Mhm.
this was like a rite of passage, or that this is how they spent time together. Maybe they weren't having a whole bunch of conversations, but they took them to the barbershop on this like weekly or every other week basis and got to observe like their father with their friends, and how that made them feel included and like special.
Right.
Um,
And probably dealing with different age groups of men too. Maybe the first time they hung around older men and heard them talk about things maybe their mother wouldn't normally let them hear. I
yes.
think a lot of the boys grew up in the barbershop as well. You know how old men talk dirty, there's no telling what they hear. And I think even when some people look at their father and they say he maybe wasn't the best, I think every now and then a father who maybe is not the best will probably pick his son up and take him to the barbershop every once and again.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Another topic I wanted to hit you with is we'll leave the men for a second, which men may be affected by this. I don't know. I've just always seen women be a poster child for it. But alopecia, I hope I say it right. But this lady said it drastically transformed how she saw herself in the mirror. And I think the biggest example we have of this because of a celebrity power is Jada Pinkett Smith and the whole Chris Rock and Will Smith slapping him, and then we find out because Jada has alopecia that he felt like the comment hurt his wife.
Mhm.
So a lot of women, you've seen the movies about hair, and you've seen the comedians. Even Tiffany Haddish, she cut all her hair off, and it was other celebrities. And then we seen celebrities like Britney Spears in the past who cut her hair off and made it bald, and we knew she had a mental health issue. But these women are doing it and saying that bald is beautiful. So tell us a little bit about this. What is it? Is a hair? Is it it's not an illness? Is it? How would it? Is what is it?
Yeah, we can call it using the medical concept that it could be considered a disorder. But yeah, alopecia is a medical term that
Mm-hmm.
describes hair loss, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
nothing more, nothing less. There's different types of alopecia that I think with Jada was coming out more. So there's things like alopecia areata, which is an autoimmune disorder that results in these sort of like dime or quarter size patches of hair missing from the scalp. Versus there's alopecia, or there's um, androgenetic. Girl,
It's
it's so.
okay. You do it. Look, you gonna say you pronounce it better than most of us gonna do.
I just put it AA, but you've heard of male pattern hair loss,
Oh
right?
yes, in the
So the
commercials.
Yeah, but the thing is, women get it too when estrogen lowers during menopause. That oftentimes can explain hair loss. I know my grandmothers both had hair loss. Like I know, okay,
Mhm,
I felt bad, but one wore a wig, right? Because she didn't
mhm,
she had a lot of hair loss. Um, and there's also CCCA. I'm
mhm,
not even going to go into what those letters stand for, but it's basically when there is sort of hair loss in the center of the scalp that kind of grows out um, to and it's scarring alopecia, meaning that hair will never grow back. So
mhm,
there's so many different types of alopecia. The only way, not only one of the ways to know what type of alopecia it is, it's actually to get a scalp biopsy where they
mhm,
take a piece of your scalp and study it to diagnose. because unfortunately some stylists don't know the difference. I'm just going to put that out there, and
Mhm.
can actually cause more harm. Like, for example, probably the one of the most famous ones in Black communities is traction alopecia, right? Traction
Mhm.
alopecia, when people are losing their edges because they're braiding their hair too tightly, palm rolling, trying to get their edges laid.
That was
Also,
gonna be my next one. You say our culture
yeah,
is so obsessed with neat edges that it created a disease.
yes. Yeah,
Wow.
so I love Susan Peterkin. She actually is a cosmetologist that works with a dermatologist, and they have um, a business together where the dermatologist does the different hair treatments, whether it's um, putting like platelet rich plasma in the scalp
Mhm.
or topical treatments and things like that. And then the stylist Susan actually puts different styles that are have loose or not such tight tension
Mhm.
for to prevent further hair loss. So yeah, it's a thing.
And I have to be honest with you, like growing up, I thought, when I was in high school, girls really didn't even have weaves like that. And maybe I didn't because I had long hair. I mean, I saw some girls that probably had a little bit, but back in the day, wigs seemed like they were for Hollywood, actors and actresses and for your grandmother. But now these young girls, you don't know how many young girls, especially in New York, I've met that have beautiful hair on their own, who just choose to wear wigs. Like one girl, I asked her, I'm like, you have hair that's manageable and it's nice. So why do you wear wigs? And she was like, I just do, it's easy. But it's like to me, growing up, a wig that was for old ladies. Like we ain't want nothing to do with that. And just to see so many vibrant young people, and we are in this part of society where it's like Black women have fallen into this trap that I want to say the white woman has created, because we already had the lips and we already had the booty. So I don't know why these Black women are going out here getting it, because like my butt is flat, but hey, I got big boobs. So it's like you can't have everything. You know what I mean? You got to be happy with something if you're going to love yourself. Like, it's like you got to say, I got this, but I can't have that. I can't have everything. You know what I mean? So, hell, I don't forgot my point, because these people
I
get me.
said, why do they wear wigs? We talk about wigs, right?
Yeah, wigs is just Dr. I just feel like it's getting us in a whole lot of trouble. Like I can see for like news anchors and people on the road who have to have that protective style for a long amount of time. And we'll talk about work discrimination too with hair. But do you not see a problem with this? How many women are just choosing this synthetic hair over their own?
Mm. Yeah, we do have to question the why. Um, I think that everybody wants to look good. I'm convinced people like looking good,
Mhm.
but we have to be mindful of who determines what looking good is. Is it is it the 15-year-old Black girl in New York in high school? Does she determine it, or does Hollywood, right?
Mhm.
And recognizing that there are sometimes these unrealistic advertised norms where you don't see anybody's hair half the time in movies, right? That it's no one in that cast is actually showing their real hair, especially if it's a Tyler Perry movie, right? I think men and the women are wearing wigs, bad wigs, right?
But Tyler said he paying folks to do the hair, but
They're not doing it well.
you need to call Dr. Afiya for them natural hairdos, right, Doctor?
Yeah, and so to even think about that, these desires are created, as you know, the hair care industry, there's a lot of money and wigs are expensive. So if you can create a desire for wigs, and people are going to be spending their money on wigs. Yeah, I think the black hair care industry is a multi-billion and maybe even $1 trillion industry if we look at it globally. And to create this white norm of long straight hair is psychological, right? In terms of how have we been convinced that this is the way that our hair needs to look. And again, I understand that the use of costumes, or I understand the concept of protective styles, but there's a point where we have to question like why people are doing this at a deeper level.
I want you to think about what I say when I say this, and we don't have to get too deep into it, but I just want to stay on the surface. Has the definition, and I don't even know if I should say in psychology, has the definition of self-love changed?
Mm.
Because self-love is being taken as in I changed this about myself, but
Mm.
now I have transformed myself into this. But it's like, shouldn't self-love start before? I mean, the transformation. I mean, I know we can grow and everything, but I feel like we'll take the wigs and we'll say that this is me, but it's like it's not you. You know, it's like it's you. That's not what's skin deep.
Mm.
And I just feel like sometimes we're changing these definition of these words, and I don't know. It just it's not really self love anymore. It's that I fix something that I hate about
Mm.
myself, and now I've made myself into something that I wasn't. But I'm gonna say that I love this thing because I couldn't love the beginning, what I
Right.
was in the beginning. Now
Mm.
you can tackle that any way you want, Doctor Fee. Look. I'm just here to give you the just to throw it out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just thinking about the role of white supremacy and capitalism in shaping the way that we see ourselves.
Mm.
Um, there's a psychological disorder called body dysmorphic disorder, and you have me thinking about that. So, body dysmorphic disorder basically is where someone um, is so concerned by a perceived defect that they're constantly trying to change their look. A perceived defect, there's not even necessarily a real defect, right? Oh, I don't like right there on my foot, or I don't like this part of my hair, that people obsess over it. And so
Is
there's
this something? I'm not interrupt you. Is this something new? Because I promise you, it was somebody I knew at one job that had this, and I had never heard of it. I heard of anorexia, and that was the closest thing I could relate it to. But it seems like just like every couple of years, there's something new that they putting out here for. It's like we're mentally weak because it's something new for them to put in our minds for us to grab it to say we have a problem. Like it's that lady from that was on the Real World, the first couple of Real Worlds, the one who's mean, Tammy. She has body dysmorphia.
oh, she
And
does. Oh, I
have you
didn't know
not
that.
seen her? She's
I
this
have
small. She has diabetes as well, or something like that. But she has body dysmorphia. She looks like she's not doing well, but she's so into her career right now, so she's focused on that. But she really looks sick. I don't know how anybody could tell her to continue working. But anyway, my point is, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have I shouldn't have
no,
butted
no, I
in,
didn't.
but it
Yeah, no.
concerns me.
A lot of celebrities have it, whether it's Lil Kim or Michael Jackson had it real bad, and not
Right.
get that. But in terms of thinking about how this shows up, I do like what you were saying. I want to follow up what you're saying too, in terms of the book that contains all the different psychological disorders has been growing and growing and growing. So it's the one that I use, or psychiatrists and psychologists and social workers use, is called the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual
Mhm.
for mental disorders. And basically it came out in 1952. In 1952, let's say there were about like 100 disorders.
Mhm.
The most recent version came out, I think in 2021, even like a revision of the fifth edition of it, and there are like 400 disorders.
Mhm.
So in like 60 years or 70 years, that there have been, it's quadrupled. Now,
Yes.
some say that this is just, refining the science and getting more specific, and the differences between diagnosis, saying differential diagnosis, different criteria. But others say it's the society that some psychologists and just people in general argue that this country in particular is depressionogenic. We use the language
Mhm.
depressionogenic, basically that it causes depression, it causes psychological disorders.
Mhm.
You've heard of like carcinogens, right? If
Mhm.
you look at different hair or skin products, that it has things in there that will actually cause you to have cancer.
Cigarettes. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so the same sort of thing that they argue, that there are factors in the society that are causing people to have psychological disorders. And so I think that that could, contribute to it growing, or even, the medication industry could
Mhm.
impact things growing. I'm not any conspiracy theorist, but you ever say of late at night and watch well, back in the old school TV, they would have these infomercials or different things where it's a commercial and you're flipping through. It's probably on BET or something. And it's like, have you ever stayed up late and watched music videos? You could have staying up late music video disorder. Like, and it's like,
Right,
what?
right,
I'm staying up late and I'm watching music videos. Oh my gosh, I have that. So I do think that there is a commercialization of psychological disorders as a part of getting people to take certain medications, right?
right.
Because I worked at a mental health clinic when I went to Howard as a research assistant. And I loved Wednesdays. Why did I love Wednesdays? Because that's when the pharmaceutical companies would come bring us lunch. We'd have all types of gyros and burritos and all these different things.
Okay.
Give us bags and give us like all these different types of merch. And so they were basically coming there to pitch these new drugs to the psychiatrists on staff who could prescribe the medication. And so to recognize that again, there's so much commercialization in terms of getting people to buy a varying range of psychological or psychiatric treatments, and to go and ask your doctor for it. Because have you noticed in those commercials, like, go ask your doctor if you can get this?
Right.
And so I think that that's even a factor too, that book, the DSM, is made by psychiatrists. And so psychiatrists are the mental health professionals that are the only ones who are allowed to prescribe drugs. So I'm not allowed to prescribe drugs, but to think about, the book is based on prescriptions of medication.
Let me give some data, whatever y'all call
Yeah,
it.
any of that.
All that. It says that suicide rates have increased among Black youth over the
Yeah.
last 20 years. It's an emerging crisis in Black mental health. And I have to say, I wanted to say this part because I think you kind of hit on it, but it's the most depressing rap music out here, glorifying demons and anxiety and depression. And some people say that the kids enjoy it because the artists are talking about it and they can relate. But I just know when you repetition of hearing things and it's in your subconscious. I mean, we can look at how when we watch a movie and it's a feel. Listen to the words when they write and the critics write. It's a feel good movie. It's a feel good movie. That's letting you know that it's gonna leave you with a feeling. It's gonna leave you with an emotional state.
Mhm.
So we have to look at the music the same way, because when we look at people come on this show and talk about music, it's a thing with the frequencies. And I would
Mhm.
like to say I'm not an expert doctor, but just with my little Google searching that I do, frequencies also can get in your hair as well. And I want to say from your hair can get down to your skull. I mean, I ain't no expert, but I'm just telling you, Dr. Fee, I'm just telling you what I done picked up. So we're taking in all this mess and it's affecting our mental health. And just another little note, we already know it. I even hate to say it because it's like, do they just make this stuff up or does this really happen? But Black people, heart disease compared to
Mhm.
white counterparts, Blacks have a higher risk for stroke, cancer, asthma, HIV, AIDS, diabetes, etc., all according to the Office of Minority Health. And all this stuff plays a part in it when your music is bad, when your TV is bad, when your relationships at work are bad, when your home is dysfunctional.
Mhm.
It's a lot. And
Yeah.
when I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist, but when I look at the data, one thing remains the same when I'm reading here. It at the end of these sentences, doctor, it says levels of stress, levels of depression compared to white counterparts. It's always more. It don't matter what the race is. It's always gonna say that the white counterparts don't have to deal with it as much. That's why I don't see why other races don't see the connecting. They don't see it. How don't you don't? It's in every statistical in all the data is saying that everyone else levels are higher than white people. That's telling us something. That's showing us something. Okay, I'm
Mhm.
done.
Well, you okay, now you get me nervous now because you're getting into these systems, right? These systems. There's a saying: "He who controls images controls minds."
Mm,
Right? He controls images, controls minds, and I'm just thinking about again who is in control of these different medias, um,
mm.
and educational systems or miseducation systems, um, and how just yeah.
Let me
Mm,
well while you getting it together, let me say this. Blacks, Hispanics, and Asians reported higher levels of stress than whites. And this is a fact here. Out of the group of Hispanics, it says that Puerto Ricans had the highest level of stress,
mm,
which I find interesting. And I know somebody could probably go deeper on why out of all the Hispanics, Puerto Ricans have the higher level of stress. I would like to know that from somebody.
mm,
And also I have here as far as race, statistics tell us that about 25% of Americans seek mental health care. 40% of those are white Americans. Only 25% of those are African Americans, excuse me. But 40% are white. So we're doubling it, and we seeing that they understand that they have to have that mental health care. And what I found interesting was it says that people who identify as being two or more races, 24.9%, are most likely to report mental illness within the past year. Now that was in 2017, but I found that interesting that middle mixed race people, mulattoes, have a mental health issue because people got to understand. Somebody in my family always said this. I'm not gonna call it their name, but they always said when you blend in them races, it's a lot of stuff that go. It's a lot of stuff that a lot of. I don't know how to even explain it, but it's a lot that's going on there when you merging those two DNAs together. But I just want, if you could take anything out of what I said, you can run with it, go with it. If any thoughts have hit you, doctor.
mm. Yeah, well, lots of thoughts have hit me, but just even thinking about it makes me think about even hair, um,
Mm-hmm.
and people who are mixed race, that sometimes that racial socialization or even hair care skills and techniques don't get passed down, and that even causes a lot of psychological distress. The Association of Black Social Workers had come up with a ruling maybe like 20 years ago saying that they did not support interracial adoptions if the parents couldn't do black hair.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just thinking, if it's hair, what about all the other factors that impact our lives, right? In terms
Mhm.
of just negotiate, if they don't understand race and racism, if they don't understand language, our language styles, if they don't understand parts of our culture as well. So it makes me think about how the stress could be exacerbated if your very own parent doesn't understand your lived experiences as a mixed race or black person. But yeah, there are just so I just everything is a system, and I guess I'm just that's my major reflection. Just like we have a digestive system, a reproduction system, a
Mhm.
respiratory system, white supremacy is a system too that impacts us and has a very specific function, and it is to make us go out of our minds, right? That the higher power structure benefits when black people are out of their minds because we're not operating in our own self-interest. That we recognize that these systems of white supremacy can impact our education, our economics, our entertainment, labor, law, politics, sex,
Mhm.
religion, wars, our health, all these different factors. And so yeah, I'm just thinking about people like Dr. Frances Cress Welsing or others who really looked at these ongoing psychological consequences of white supremacy.
Beautiful. I want to bring up an audience comment I just saw that sparked something in me from Izzy, and I totally agree with this. He says, "We just have a culture of keeping things a secret. So the statistics wouldn't truly reflect our stress levels, but we know." The part of this that got me is the culture of keeping things a
Mm.
secret because we have to. I understand keeping your business to yourself. But do you agree with that notion that us as black people we keep and we hold a lot of secrets generationally?
I think it was a survival technique.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, I'm kind of torn. I could see, in tradition how that served a role, that you had to be initiated into certain information. Not everybody could have access to, the workings of the world or politics or these different things. But I'm thinking too, as a survival technique, to not show weakness. I'm thinking about Dr. Joy DeGrew's book, Post Traumatic Slave Syndrome, where sort of this not having the space to actually process emotions and express yourself for fear of consequence, of again being vulnerable in a dangerous situation. And a lot of these experiences that our enslaved African ancestors had haven't gone away today, right? In terms of, I'm even paranoid right now of who's watching this. And so I'm just even recognizing at points today, I'm censoring myself even on here. Right. And so to that paranoia, we can call it, can be healthy if it's a survival technique, but then it could also be harmful if then we never get to process and unpack and explore our depth of our experiences as well.
Oh, just a little side note. When we were talking about hair and wearing it high up, it makes me think of the 70s. I would like to know how vibrant the Black people were then, since they all had afros. You know, maybe that's why they was out there dancing all good and stuff. Their body was just vibing, baby.
Yes, I agree with that. I think in the 1960s and 70s, people went from being called Negro and colored, because if you look at your parents' birth certificate, it's going to say Negro or colored on there. But they went from being Negro and colored to identifying as Black and African. And with that change in consciousness, they had a change in aesthetics. They wanted to wear their hair big. That this was such a political statement, and energetic too, right? To go from years and years of straightening and relaxers and hot combs to then rebel in that way. And so oftentimes hair has been used in rebellion, whether it's the Mau Mau in Kenya, who had an undercover army to fight the British and sellouts in Black communities during their fight for independence, or even thinking about, trying to even think like the Shiftas in Ethiopia who were fighting Europeans to resist colonization, that they would wear these really big afros there too. And so just all these different things that are connected, that hair oftentimes can be connected to warriorhood and resistance, and even going through initiation processes to wear certain hairstyles to evoke warrior gods and goddesses too.
Yes, and if you want to see a warrior hair goddess hairdo, you could just look at me and Dr. Afiya. Whoa!
Are you going to see the next Black Panther?
You said, am I interested in it?
Are you going to see it?
Yeah, I'm sure I'll see it. But
Yeah.
I'm one of those that think that they should recast the Black Panther. Like, the story doesn't end because Chadwick died. Rest in peace, though. I like him a lot, but let's continue it. We got about 3 minutes, doctor.
Okay.
And I want you to, so you're going to have to go, you're going to have to hit us with this, but I have to discuss it before we go. Got to talk to the ladies for a minute. PMS. The reason I want to talk about this is because sometimes I just think I'm a raving bitch, but I swear, I got to show them you laughing. And I'm sure I am a bitch a lot, most of the time. But but I noticed at different ages your cycle changes. Okay. Mine has always been hell, but sometimes it can be easier than others. So sometimes PMS is quick. Sometimes you feel PMS weeks before. Some people feel it a couple of days before. Some people swear they don't feel nothing. And I don't like those women who feel that way, okay? You make me sick. But your sister here feel it, okay? I feels it. And I got 4 slides for you, but in this intro here, it says 4 signs that this is not PMS, but you go ahead and read that for me, sis.
Okay. Premenstrual dysphoric disorder, PMDD.
Yes. And your first slide says depression.
Mm-hmm.
If you have PMS, you may feel depressed, but if you have PMDD, your sadness may be so extreme that you feel hopeless. You might even have thought about suicide. Now, I don't know if I ever heard of PMDD, but if you feel
It's
like you need
new.
to tell us a
It's
little bit more about it, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a new disorder that obviously only women can be diagnosed with, but
Right.
it's basically the week before the cycle starts that there's this uptick in a whole bunch of hormones, which is like this most unique cocktail of chemicals in the body that can make people freak out. That
Hmm.
angry, sad, lots of conflicts, again, that hopelessness, mood swings, all of that. And so there's controversy whether or not this is a real disorder, but so many people can identify that it's like, well, when that time comes, I'm just not myself. And so if we
Hmm.
study that endocrine system, which is regulates our hormones, we see that there are huge shifts that can happen, especially when people are maybe eating certain foods, maybe not getting exercise, not drinking enough water, they feel it even more. So we know that
Hmm.
there are techniques to sort of talk about stuff and also things to do to your body to not feel it as intensely.
Girl, this is one of these things where normally I'm against, like every year they making a new disorder, but y'all can make this one because it's about damn time. And I also say women should be able to take off when their cycle on at least that first or second day. I want that to be
Mm.
implemented because some of us feel like crap. The amount of women that I see that say they have to go home and get into
Mhm.
a what an embryo position and they can't
Mm.
move. It's pure
You,
D
you went
hell.
you went way back embryo position. I thought it was fetal. You
Well,
went
oh, fetal, girl. Look,
no,
I'm
that's
in
what I'm saying.
pain. I'm an
At
embryo.
conception.
Girl.
You at conception. You went way back.
If my mama watching, I know she laughing because she was a nurse, so I know she laughing like hell. I know that's okay. Y'all do what I bet. Look, Dr. Fia, this was so freaking beautiful. Please don't stay away as long this
Yeah,
time, okay?
this has to be a regular thing. I even when I showed my husband our first live, he was like, "That's the best live I've ever seen." So he loves
Really?
your work and was like, you have to do it again. You're definitely for the people." And so the energy that you bring and the research that you brought too, I wasn't even ready. Like, oh, so this was very fulfilling and satisfying for me.
Well, thank you so much. That means so much to me. I want you to tell everybody where they can reach out to you on social media. And will I be wrong saying, did you write a book or no?
I got a few books. I got a few books. So
Well, which one do you want to promote today? Let's say
let's,
that.
let's go with Strong Black Girls. That's a book that I have that talks about Black women's experiences in school. But you can follow me on social media on Instagram at Dr. Afiya, Dr_AFIYA. You could also follow Psychotherapy. Psychotherapy.org is our website to figure out how to actually take classes with me, which is September 13th and 14th. That's our next series of classes. And okay, you got the book. You got me looking at the guide book. Okay, all right.
Well,
Well, so
look here on your professional photo right here, doctor. There you
that's
go.
a good one. I got good lighting in that. Fake eyelashes. But yeah, yeah, you can follow at psychotherapy and then also Mayat Psychological Services. Mayat is the name of an Egyptian deity or a goddess. And so
Mhm.
I named my company after that about balance and order. So yeah, Mayat Psychological Services, that's the website and the social media handles.
Sister is deep. Okay. Okay. Sister is deep. Y'all don't forget to hit the like button on your way out of here. Don't forget to leave me a comment. Let us know what you thought about today's show, what you thought about the topics and all that jazz. Make sure if you haven't already subscribed, share this link to a friend, share this channel to a friend. You know how we do. Sharing is caring. And also, I mean, I have to have this show continue to run. So if you want to send this show a Cash App donation, PayPal, I don't give a damn. It's at the Cash App is at the bottom of the screen. And if you don't know, you can hit me up and I'll tell you how you can donate. It's very much appreciated and it is used for the show. So you ain't got to worry about that. All right. Dr. Fia, I love you. A beautiful Sunday. Continue to be the person you are. You're so wonderful. I love your smile. I like your hair. I like your energy. And I like your husband now because he gave me such great compliments. So tell him I said thank you so very much. All
Thank
right.
you. Continue doing what you do.
I will. And we out of here, guys. Peace.